Good morning, my friend.
How are you?
I hope you can get a word in edgewise, but between
it'll
both
be
of us.
difficult, but I'll try.
Do this. Talk a little bit about how you got to this point. You don't have to go back to 1962. But
I'm not that old.
you don't just wake up, and become a computer whiz. So
Right.
kind of walk us through how that happened.
Well, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My parents own businesses, so I kind of saw that growing up and kind of knew that, that I wanted to work for myself someday, even before I even got into IT. So I think that was, a lot of the driver behind me, that propelled me into eventually wanting to go and work for myself. But, it did start, as Mike said, that working for a lot of the big businesses and seeing, now this is going back into the 2000s time, or even having your own email server, or having email service. These were still kind of emerging technologies, if you will, certainly for small businesses, right? You didn't have a lot that was afforded to you. And I saw that there was a lot of potential. This was back in, I'm going to get a little nerdy here, back in what they called the ASP days. But this is back when the pre-cloud era was starting to develop. And kind of could see the writing on the wall of how technology was starting to develop and how you could take it and mature it into helping small business.
So what's interesting about this is I know a lot of people like you, sharp, skilled people, but there's no way they're actually going to build a business out of what they know, because there's more to it than just being able to know how to do it.
Right.
You got to be able to sell it. So talk about how you jumpstart that and get it up off the ground.
Relationships, really. I mean, I think that's the most important piece is, having good relationships with people, being, pragmatic and simple when you have conversations with businesses, as, Mike kind of talked about earlier in the segment, getting to know a business and talking to them, earning the trust. I think that goes a long way. In addition to it, certainly helps to know what you're talking about.
Right.
But I think that relationships are really the key drivers, and you rely on your customers and the relationships you have to give you other leads and opportunities.
One thing that I'll mention with Mike, Mike is as technically astute as anyone that you'll know, but he really separates himself, Joe, understanding that business drives the technology. He also separates himself because he's very social. So when he's going to sit down,
He doesn't look nerdy, I'll be honest with
right.
you. He really don't.
And in a normal conversation, he has a way of being able to dummy down the technical stuff for people like you and I so that we understand it.
Skippy, did my big brother just call me stupid?
Well,
I'm almost positive
We're
he
still
did.
not sure you didn't have your printer just plugged into the
So it's very having nothing to do with the business side, right, of running
Right.
a business, and you obviously have to have that skill set. So, Mike, what was the most getting from where you started to where you are today? Can you identify the single most challenging piece?
Probably, managing growth certainly is one of those. Managing people, for those of us who start in technology, it's real easy to work with systems and applications. That changes pretty quickly once you start having to manage people. And
Welcome to small business. The minute you got to hire somebody.
That's right. That's been probably the most difficult piece, being a motivator, leading people. You certainly have to learn to change, and diversify yourself and what you're good at.
Talk about that for a minute, because there's a lot of small business people out there that are going through this right now. Walk us through the first couple of hires and how that process was in your head, because I know that those are the tough ones.
Those are the ones that I would rather not mention.
They were mistakes on the front end.
Right, for every one good one, you probably have one or two bad ones.
Yeah.
It's definitely it's an art, and that's a lot of Mike's background right there, is being able to to find good resources and place them. Coming from over a decade of experience before starting Wincourse, that just wasn't something that I was completely prepared for. So you kind of have to, that's on-the-job training right there. And you just have to propel through it and find resources and find help.
Before Mike came on board, were you your best salesperson?
I was the only salesperson.
So you would do it.
Customers, right.
Right. So
Yeah.
you'd sell it, and then you'd
Right.
figure out a way to make sure it was working, too.
That's right. That's right. I spent a lot of time, deploying the technology, making sure that whatever solution we were going to provide our customers, that it was the best that we could provide. So spent a lot more time doing that than I was actually out there selling.
How did you decide what products and services you wanted to provide your clients? How did you make that call?
Watching the industry and having a lot of conversations with businesses, trying to stay up on the trends. That if you can see, kind of what's maturing out there and kind of what people need.
What are the top, say, 5 types of, can I call them drivers? Am I okay with that, or products or service that you're providing right now?
Actual products and services. So remote access, Mike mentioned that. That's really probably one of the biggest drivers for us, especially today. We're seeing businesses that are expanding or diversifying, and that expansion can just be we're hiring people to work from home, right? We want to be able to acquire talent outside of the Statesville area, and to be able to do that, they need to be able to access your applications and your data, from remote locations. So that's probably one of the biggest things that we do is we enable businesses really to be anywhere and to be able to retain talent from any location. We've got customers as far as Anchorage, Alaska, and we've had customers use our systems really all over the world.
Now, Mike was telling me that I'm going to call it a server, right? So this is where you are housing all of this information, right? This is something that you own, or do you have a third party with that? How does that work? Because sooner or later, somebody got to have a computer somewhere, right?
Right. So we've got a data center down in Charlotte, and there we own and operate all of our own equipment. So this is networking equipment. These are backups. These are storage devices. These are servers. So there's a lot of
all the stuff I don't want to buy.
And be careful.
Stuff.
Be careful taking them down this road, because it won't be long before you. Yeah. You start
talking.
I stepped into it, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. I'm just letting you know early. Yeah.
It was not my intention to take you down this techie road.
That's all right. I won't get too techy, but that is something that makes us a little bit different. That kind of the buck stops with us. And that's been real foundational for us for a long time is, there's lots of different IT providers out there. You've got your Googles and your Amazons and your Microsofts, and you can get a lot of great services with them. But as an IT provider, the buck doesn't necessarily stop with me. And so we like to talk about that if we're going to provide a service, we own it and operate it from start to finish.
And that's the key here, because I know I can contact Microsoft or whatever, but goodness gracious, man, I if I'm going to dig into this and let this be a part of my company and my business, I'm picking up the phone calling you.
Right.
I want Mike.
Right.
So I do not want Dabib to tell me we want to fix this on Tuesday.
Right. That is something that we do. Is every company's got vendors, right? And a lot of even the companies that we do business with have other IT vendors. It could be their internet service provider. As part of the services that we provide, we'll manage that relationship with those vendors as well.
And save me 2 hours on the phone.
That's exactly correct.
Right, because if you're spending time on the stuff that we do, then you're not making money. You're not moving your business forward, and we recognize that.
And that, I got to be honest with you, man. That statement alone, just mentally, I felt like a weight just lifted off my shoulders. If I can just hand all of that to you and say, Mike, solve this problem, whatever it is.
Right.
And recognize, so 24 by 7 by 365, you're a small business. Something goes wrong. You don't know what it is. Won't print, can't connect, whatever. You call the number, someone answers the number, someone helps you.